And thanks for joining us once again here on PM Express. And tonight we are still on this Galamsey conversation because it is the biggest challenge of our time. It's an existential threat, and we have to talk about it until we get a solution. This is the right time to do so because both parties have been making promises and commitments around this. And the place to look for their commitments is in their manifestos, the social contract that they have with us. We've been talking quite a lot about what the parties must do, but they've already laid before us a program for 2025 and beyond. So what are they promising to do about this problem, if at all? And that's what we're going to look at. And we'll scrutinize that just to get a sense of whether these two parties are taking this seriously enough in 2025 going into the 2028 indeed. And one of them may definitely win the elections, and we need to hold them now to what they're telling us they will do on this particular subject. And so let's get into that. Now, part of the problem that we have observed is that, and you hear everybody talk about depoliticizing the Galamsey conversation. Over the weekend, we did an extensive conversation on this, and Professor Inning gave some very startling accounts on what is happening across the country. We know at the heart of the problem is the politics of it all, right? Just read Professor Frimpong Boateng's document, and then you'll find what I'm talking about. And if you go into our electoral history, you find this play out ahead of each elections. One party is fighting it, the other party in opposition then tend to have a softer stance on the matter because of the gains you can make in Galamsey areas. And I want to go back to 2016. This is 2016, a news item that we picked up, right? So in 2016, as you remember, the John Mahama administration at the time, under the leadership of Inusa Fuseni, they were fighting Galamsey at the time. They were arresting people, burning excavators, etc., and prosecuting people. At the time, the then opposition leader, Nana Akufo-Addo, was campaigning in many constituencies across the country and telling them that he will regularize Galamsey activities, right? And this is a news item from the graphic that was captured at the time that this was happening. And I'm bringing this up because we need to name and shame too as we campaign, right? And some of these politicians will be in your constituencies. I remember 2 months ago, there was a parliamentary candidate in a particular constituency in the Western region, and he was addressing electorates there. And with him was a Western regional minister. And he was telling the people that when the military and the security forces come to the area to try and stop them, they should beat them up. They should beat them up. And we had to call him out to the point where on my show on radio, he comes to apologize for that. We did that story for 3 days continuously until he came to apologize. The Ministry of Defense, the Ghana Armed Forces had to issue a statement. The police did so too. Everybody condemned him. But there are many people like that. And our luck was that this was captured. We had him. We saw the video. And so we could call him out and expose him. But just imagine the many politicians crisscrossing the country in small communities and in areas, campaigning on the ground, telling them things that we're not hearing about. Because this has happened in the past. This was 2016. Come to 2020 ahead of elections. When Nana then wins elections, in 2020, he was fighting Galamsey, as you know. He was burning excavators, etc., and arresting people. Then you have John Mahama too, then, just before the elections. Also, a news item by the same graphic. He was telling people, I will grant all imprisoned Galamseyers under Akufo-Addo amnesty, right? And this again was criticized. In fact, this year, I had the spokesperson for John Mahama with me on the studio, and I asked him the question whether this is a policy that they will still pursue. And he said, she says, yes, they will do so. But this was 2020. So you see how when you change power, and depending on where you stand in terms of either you're in opposition or in government, the views seem to change. And that really is a problem with Galamsey. If we take the politics out of this, we are more than halfway to winning this. And that's why we will be calling out people as part of this whole campaign, because they are campaigning right now in the constituency. We'll do so because you see the positions changing over time. And of course, they will tell you, they'll bandy this to your face. They'll bandy this anytime we mention the thing of Galamsey and politics. They'll say, well, we lost 10% of the votes in Galamsey areas. And so what? Is it about the votes or is it about the people? It's about us all. And they've made Galamsey about the votes. But really, it shouldn't be. So we're going to have a conversation about this, right? And then you look at the statistics showing what it tells us in these areas, right? So you look at the NDC and the MPP in terms of their previous attempts at trying to deal with this problem, right? In MPP's time, we know that they've deployed military and police joint task force, and very, very similar to what the NDC also did. They had an interministerial task force also led by Yunus Afuseni at the time. And then you also have burning of excavators. Both of them had done so. I mean, NDC seized excavators quite a bit in their time too. Arrest of illegal miners, they also did same, prosecuting illegal miners. So they all identify that this is a problem. But when they're in government, they try and do something about it. When they're in opposition, they want to win power. Their position is slightly different. And both sides are guilty of this. And it's time to hold their feet to the fire. If you come to 2020, we're looking at their two manifestos. And one thing you see, they all make an attempt to try and tell us they'll do something about it. But it is woefully inadequate because it lacks specificity. Because you hear talking about MPP saying vigorously protect surface and underground water. How exactly are they going to do so? As we know from last week, the Water Resources Commission has told us that the water stability level, this is the worst in the world right now. We are actually running out of safe water and processing water for potable water in our tap, in our homes. And the NDC, in their manifesto, tells us they want to ensure mining operations are not conducted in unapproved areas. But how do you do that is a big question. We've told you what they've done in the past, and we've seen that sometimes it begins to yield results, but they drop the ball at a point. Often, when you're approaching elections, they just back off and allow the wanton destruction environment to happen. And I remember when the Media Coalition against Galamsey started working 2017, 2018, the quality of the water, the turbidity improved. You could even see with your naked eye that the water quality has improved. There was some results. But what happened? We're approaching elections, ball was dropped. Come to the 2020 manifesto again, MPP says they're going to effectively manage all major water basins. NDC says they'll strengthen mining regulatory institutions. That's an assumption that, of course, existing mining regulatory institutions like the Minerals Commission aren't strong enough to deal with this particular challenge. Address illegal mining in cocoa areas is one thing that the MPP had said. NDC says something very similar. NDC says they will reclaim degraded cocoa lands and fight Galamsey, on cocoa farms. Why is this important? I made the point last week that we're currently losing cocoa farms to Galamsey, and it's at a very alarming rate indeed. You shouldn't be surprised then that cocoa board is struggling because we can't produce enough cocoa. A lot of our lands are already gone to illegal mining. If we can't fix the cocoa problem, it has an implication on our ability to raise the cocoa syndicated loan. We don't have a come in to shore up the city. Now wonder why the city is depreciating and there's nothing else to shore it up. That would have helped a great deal, right? So it has implications for your pocket. You think you're sitting in Accra, it has nothing to do with you. It does. Inflation is part of the problem. Just imagine what the cocoa syndicated loan would have done if he had come in, would have had a ripple effect on everything else. But now, as you see, cocoa farms are being destroyed, a huge foreign exchange earner for us, now succumbing to the threats of illegal mining. Both parties acknowledge this and say they want to do something about this. Question is, we want the specifics. Are these enough? I'll ask my guests when they join me. Again, they talk about simplifying small-scale mining licensing. Maybe they believe this will solve the problem. I'll ask my guests if they believe any of these really fundamentally deals with the illegal mining problem. NDC says they want to ensure affordable access to mining equipment. Okay, we know that some of the mining equipment has been used to destroy the environment. So how do you ensure that whilst you do this, you're making it easier for them to get equipment? It doesn't end up in a forest reserve to be destroyed, to destroy the environment. Involve traditional authorities and district assemblies in licensing processes. That has been recommended as one of the solutions to the problem. Because if you get the assemblies involved and the traditional authorities involved, they know the people, and so they can help in dealing with it at that level, decentralizing the regulatory and licensing processes for artisanal miners. And you see, they are very similar in what they are proposing. This is really decentralization, right? And this is also decentralization, and that they use the word more specifically there. So both of them are saying the same thing, that they will deal with this. But are these radical enough? Because we need radical solutions to deal with this particular problem is a fundamental question we're asking tonight. And you see, the MPP says they will establish a minerals development bank for small-scale miners. Is that what we need, is a question. NDC says here they'll set up a Ghana Gold Board and to restructure the small-scale mining sector. Again, would this solve the problem? NDC said they'll promote the branded gold artifact production. Well, what would this do? Yeah, I don't know. We'll look at that. Support Ghanaian jewelers to produce certified gold coins is what the MPP is saying. So there's a whole host of things that all of them have said they will do. We will scrutinize each. Have you heard enough from the two parties as they campaign across the country? I believe that if you really want to vote, this is one of the things you should be using as your yardstick, as a measure of who to vote for. This is who is dealing with this, who is committing, who is showing the track record. This is important because the politicians, that's what they listen to. If they know they'll be punished at the polls, they're more likely to act. My guess will wane after the break. And PMS is always brought to you by Syntax Tanks. It is strong, it is tough. It also brought to you by Academic Times, University of Ghana Alumni Lecture 2024. And as you know, we are now back on TuneIn. I'm talking about Joy FM, find us there. And talking about Syntax Tanks, they are really the best for you because they have bespoke offerings for you, 7 years warranty, but they come in various sizes and shapes. You just have to call them and order and they will deliver it to you. They are nationwide. 0244-335-168 or shop online at syntaxgh.com. Syntax Tanks, a strong, a tap. Academic Times. The Academic Times Ghana is an incoming graphic and online publication aiming to collaborate with university authorities and students to ensure that student research is published in summary form. This is the bridge, bridging the gap between students' research and policymakers. You want to find Academic Times once it's out, and that there is what you should be paying attention to when that is launched. Also, here on PM Express, always recommending for you the tuning, because you have Joy FM there, which is obviously up and running now, that you can find us. Wherever you are, you find Love FM, Adom FM, Asempa FM. All our channels are indeed there for you to find. With me in the studio is Dr. Ken Ashigbe, and Dr. Ken Ashigbe is, of course, a convener of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining, and joins us in the studio. We'll be joined by Aula Sewa, is the coordinator of Eco-Conscious Citizens, pretty shortly here on PM Express. And we'll also hear from a traditional ruler who will join us, Ojia Hoho Yao JB II. He's the president of the National House of Chiefs. We're hoping for to get him to speak to us on this very important subject. And Mr. Shibile, let's start with, last week when we spoke on the show, you had indicated that the mobilization is happening. I know there have been significant movements. I must say, last week we spoke to the organized labor, and we know that a series of meetings have happened among themselves, trying to see how to tackle this matter. The National Association of Graduate Teachers was very vocal. I mean, that this is something that they want to throw their weight behind. I have seen the invitations to us all about a press conference that's about to happen. That's significant progress. I mean, what should we be looking forward to?
So what it is that you notice that 2017, when we started the Media Coalition Against Galamsey, it was the media at the forefront. The same thing that you've seen in this couple of weeks where the media is leading. But at this stage, we've gotten to the point where we can't have our critical stakeholders behind us anymore. So we are calling on, so we've engaged the forum of the labor unions, TUC, and the Ghana Labour Federation. All of them, we've engaged them because we want them to be by our side. We've engaged the clergy, we've engaged the office of the chief imam, we've dealt with a lot of the CSOs themselves are also coming. Even the Small Scale Miners Association, we've engaged everybody because we believe that we currently are in a crisis. And the crisis response we need to get, we're not getting it. We've had several people call on this issue of the declaration of a state of emergency to be able to deal with a situation where in August, you have turbidity at such a Himan water treatment plant being at 14,000 NTUs. When you should be talking about 5 NTUs, that should be treated down to 1 NTU. GWCL, their plant there is supposed to be treating 500 NTUs. They've pushed the tolerance level up to 2,000, but currently you're at 14,000. And this is crisis, and you don't get that urgency coming from anybody. Yeah. Neither from the president, neither from the leading opposition party, neither from the MPP's presidential candidate, even the Speaker of Parliament. When he spoke, they came into Parliament. Instead of them seeing that there was a crisis at hand and what do we all do, all he did was, mention names and lament like the way you and I are lamenting. So now we believe that things ought to be done differently. So definitely our posture now for Wednesday's meeting is to be able to bring all of these civil society, other organized groups together and call on the president, who is the commander-in-chief of Ghana's military, who has the power based on the constitution to declare a state of emergency, and who are being very specific over the water bodies and over the buffers to the water bodies. Up to about 100 meters, it's illegal to mine there. And people are currently mining. You cross the bridges and you can see the chamfans. So the time has come for the president to be able to mobilize all of that power and ensure that we clear all of these people of the waters, make sure that the water can breathe. Then also we would be calling on the president that concessions that currently cross over these water bodies, they should be revoked because it also contributes to the challenges that we're finding. Then the other point we also will be asking for is the fact that the presidential candidate, because if, again, we're coming to talk about the manifesto, you find out that in the manifestos, none of them deal with the issues of the crisis. So we're going to be asking on the former president, John Mahama, current Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia, will be calling on Alan Chemanting, will be calling on Bediako, all of those who have gone to file their nominations. We would want them, based on what you said in your intro, we would want them to publicly commit to the crisis response that requires that water bodies, mining, getting the military in there, anybody who is in there arrested, like you saw in the case of UK, when they had a crisis recently, what did they do? They set up a court immediately that was trying people. Within 24 hours, people had been sentenced. It is the same thing that we need to happen. So that is the call that we would be calling on the president. And definitely, if we call on the president, we intend not to be spectators. So when we call on the president and we don't see any action, then with the power of all the people that were mobilizing the whole of Ghana, we then will have to exert the necessary pressures that the constitution gives us the right to ensure that the president will do this, and we should start seeing that the turbidity should start receding. We should stop the poisoning. Because you see, Evans, what is happening currently is the poisoning of all of us. And if you have mass poisoning, mass killing of people, what do you call it? It's genocide. And the response to that is not what we are seeing. So that's the intention of what is going to happen on Wednesday. And so that post-Wednesday, with the conversations with all of you, we all will decide what we need to do. My only prayer is that by the time we get to Wednesday, the president will make that press conference redundant by calling the state of emergency over our water bodies, over the areas that the law itself says it's illegal, and making sure that we can deploy the Air Force over those water bodies. So when you are seen in there, after you've been told not to be in there, then we take the necessary action of, dealing with you as a war combatant. Then get the Navy in there to also flush them out, open up the waterways that have been blocked, and then also getting the army then also on foot to be able to get there, so that we can ensure that between now and the end of the year, we will be able to at least stop whatever challenge that will be, the crisis that we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, and that is, and we're in a political season, and I like the fact that you're going to get the candidates involved, because they obviously will have to execute and implement whatever strategy that we put in place. You're going to be calling the president himself. And you notice in the manifestos, all of them talk about protecting our water bodies, etc. But what you don't find is how they plan to do so. There's a very broad, sweeping strokes that have been applied. Vigorously protect the surface and underground water. Well, what does that mean that the MPP is saying? Ensure mining operations are not conducted in unapproved areas. I mean, what ensure is so vague, you don't understand what that is. And you get a sense that they really want to dodge the real issue. Because they know that if you really are specific to say you're going to wage a war, for example, and we're going to arrest people, you may risk losing votes. This is a conversation about winning votes. And we need to find a way of actually getting people to punish parties who want to dodge the subject.
Again, I think you painted the picture, but it is very important that as students of social science, we go back and look at the behavior that we have seen in this fourth Republican regime that we are in. So, and you are spot on. 2016 what we saw was that we got the president. I'm trying to get whether it's a video or an audio where when he started fighting the Galamsey in 2016, people accused him of the fact that he had come to promise them that he was going to allow Galamsey to continue.
Yeah.
That was when John Mahama then, as president, was then, dealing with the law enforcement issues of it. And then when we saw that and then the turbidity, so you look at it, getting close to 2016, the NDC also then released it. Yeah. So turbidity rose very badly. Yeah. And that was what occasioned us in March. And then in April of 2017, then we started the media coalition and the president then came in. And so the turbidity cleared. But what then you found out when we went on the ground doing the town hall meetings, that on the ground, the local NDC people were saying to them, have you seen? These people have come and they're doing this to you with your Galamsey. And then you started seeing, so listen to Abu Jinapur mentioned it. Gradually, you started seeing the local MP people see, I see the things the people are saying about us. They say this is what we're doing. So getting close to the 2020 elections, then at the national level, they decided that they were going to pull out the army from the Operation Vanguard. And then decided to open it up. And then it became free for all. Then you found out there's an NDC party person who openly on tape had gone into one of these communities and was telling you that, you know what, immediately on the 7th, when John Mahama wins, you can go back and go into. I think that gentleman was even punished but it happened. And then because of what happened, and then the numbers that, you showed on the number, that 10% that you're talking about. So after the 2020 elections, the fight has not been, yes, we saw Operation Halt, but it's just been in spurts. We have not been dealing with it. And then in between all of that was a situation where you got the president himself, his MP, his party chairperson in the Ashanti region was involved. No, before even that, you remember Aisha-Wan? Yeah. Aisha-Wan, we were dealing with this to a point where prosecution was going to happen. Then we got Attorney General come file a nolli prosequa. We sent a petition to him saying that because of the importance of this, though the laws do not require her to give us a reason, it was important that she gave us the reason. She did not. And who came? We then got the senior minister, an engineer for that matter, then come and tell us. Justifying it and said, with all the things we want from China, why are we going to go after that person? Again, it's just an issue of the politics. So we repatriated her. Exactly. And did we? No, well, it turns out that we were not even sure that is not sure. Yeah. Commander-in-Chief even is not sure. He was told the woman has been repatriated, but it turns out that she was just like... Exactly. So then in 2024, after the elections, because of all the things that had happened, the MPP thought they had lost seats in parliament. And you saw the Minister for Lands say to you that even his party people then come saying he's doing the fight too much. So in 2024, up till now, really we've not been fighting it. Now, as we get close to an election and they begin to see the elections coming up, then you see, so no, there's no fight going on. And there's a direct relationship between the turbidity levels and how close you are to an election. Exactly. It's worse when you get close to an election. At that point, they just open it up. Nobody cares. Nobody's fighting it. And you see, the seriousness of it is that one of the media houses, it's not because I'm here, that have really kept this fight is the multimedia, especially Erastus. And in all these situations, all of that was happening. Then you get the Ghana water comment. And you see, interestingly, you look at these numbers and you have to look at the trends. In August, we are getting 14,000 NTUs. It's a major, major crisis. And another thing is that it's coincided with the drought. And the drought is not lifting. So we are getting to the point where very soon we'll start licking clay. Because it is a dire situation that we're in. But then the interesting thing happens. You see the NDC and the MPP release their manifestos. In their manifestos, there is no crisis response at all. All they do is that because they are looking at the next vote. So they throw these, very mundane words and ensure that the things that need to be done, it's just like you have a child that has a major cut, bleeding, and you're saying that, oh, I will give you Winamix, to nutrition. At that particular point, you need a painful surgery to be done. And that's where we're currently at. So the partisan and the election cycles have pushed us close. But unfortunately, every time it pushes us very close to the brink. And so we keep on destroying. And then to make matters worse, again, this is where you indict both parties. The NDC and MPP sat in parliament and the government introduced an LI 2462 that allows the president to give permission for people to go into globally biodiversity areas to go and mine. And you remember somebody wanted to go into Kakum Forest to even go and mine. Yeah. And now we've seen what the Fourth Estate has done. And we see people who have been given the licenses to go in there. So our politicians have not helped us. How is it that the NDC sat in parliament and that LI came and they did nothing about it? And again, you look into the manifestos of both of them. None of them have talked about repealing it. No.
It hasn't been featured at all.
No.
At all. And of course, it went through parliament, 21 sittings, and it matured.
Yes.
We've seen that even in the case of this LI that would allow the MPs to use sirens, they pulled it out. Last week when it was reintroduced, the leaders were here with me around the same table, and they said that they were going to arrest it and get the 2/3 that is required, because once it's been laid, it's counted. If you don't get the 2/3, it matures and becomes law. Get the 2/3 that is required to truncate it, so they can put in their clause that allows them to use sirens. So for this to travel, nobody can tell they didn't know about it. And nobody has said that we want to do something to fix it. The parties and the are very complicit in this matter, and they know what they're doing, because there are votes to be won. But Ken, I guess I need to ask you this, that if it's about the votes, then it's about the people, because they believe that the people will reward their silence on the matter in terms of how aggressive you can sound about it. Isn't it then a problem with us, the electorate, that they believe that if we shout that we're going to do it, you punish us? So rather, don't talk about it and let the elections go on. You think that in the areas where mining is happening, the people are suffering, obviously, because they don't have water to drink. As you've heard, cocoa farmers are now having to carry water from their homes to the farms. But they also vote for parties who tell them that will allow the Galamsey to go on. Isn't it really about the people and not the politicians?
No. You see, unfortunately, it is the fact that these politicians have kept the people in, abject poverty. And to the extent that, there are just a few of them who are benefiting from them. And then they've brainwashed the people to think that apart from this Galamsey, there's nothing else you can do. So they get then into this particular cycle where these people are the people who have the money. And bear in mind, in our country, people are able to take 50 cedis, go into particular areas and people vote for them.
Yes.
So when they now come in and they tell you that you mine an acre, you can get $6,000 out of it because you will not have to do reclamation and all of that. The people see that. They can build one house or, and forget that after that is done, there's abject poverty. Yesterday, I was talking to one of my seniors in St. Augustine's who lived in Bogoso. He said he went to Bogoso. There's a mate of his who was a teacher. If you see his skin, his age, if you see how he's aged, and he told him, and he says, you are living in Accra. So this is somebody who is suffering, but he thinks that he's built a 2-bedroom house, and now he's suffering. So I think the challenge is that we who have been advocating this have also not focused on the plight of the people, noticing that these people are victims. Because if you have these people whose lands have been taken, who have been impoverished, so this woman who her only crime is that she woke up, went to nature's call and God died. If we are not able to allow them to link these things up to the fact that it is because they are doing this, if we are not able to show them that now that when you're going to your farm, you have to carry this water to so we've not done the linkages, the consequence of the actions that they have. And then we have also not provided them, credible alternatives. Why are we going to provide them the credible alternatives? The people who are benefiting out of this, the people who are buying the gold, the people who are getting the gold, a lot of them who the Speaker of Parliament collaborates that involves these politicians and the people we have chosen to be able to act on this are the same people who are going around and telling these people, don't mind these people, you will get this money. Yeah. And so the whole ISO mentality is the thing that is driving a lot of this. And we really need to point it out to them. Yesterday, Professor Adai was talking, he is an economist,
Yeah.
he was talking about the fact that we could even decide to pay people 1,000 Ghana cedis, those who are in these communities, if we even say there are 1 million of them involved in this, to be able to show them the way to go.
Yeah.
So that gradually you then be able to, one, either you're teaching them how to mine, very sustainably, they're not mining on the water bodies, or you are providing them alternatives to do.
But that is what the community mining initiative was supposed to do.
Again.
And it's become an avenue cover for illegal mining.
Please, what is community mining? Go and find out. Do you even know who owns all the community mines? Because community mine, at the heart of that, is supposed to be the community owning the mines. But what we've done is that, one, we didn't even develop a complete policy over it. All we have done is that we have shrouded, so the illegality again is what is gone into. It's just like the way we have this Hitler mentality that we pass a law. Hitler passes a law that says that you can kill the Jews, so it's legal to kill the Jews. Same way, we pass a law that says that we can go into secure biodiversity areas and go and mine. So we're using the laws. We then go and create something called community mining. Shrouded in all opacity, and then we're using that to perpetuate the Galamsey. It is this is even the things that gives the politicians the same way the LI 2462 that was passed, that we've seen politically exposed people benefiting out of this. A lot of the community mines, if they should publish those who actually own it, you will find out that, again, it is the politically exposed people or those who are connected to the positions of power who are then able to push for these things to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that clearly is where the problem is. And I want to bring in Awula Sewa, who's joining as the coordinator of the Eco-Conscious Citizens on the line. So thanks for your time here on PM Express. Can you hear me?
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we're discussing the two political parties mainly and their commitments to dealing with this, also because they're campaigning and they've put out their manifestos, which is a social contract, and we've been looking at the various manifestos and what they're saying as they go out there and campaign. Do you find that any of these parties have so far put forward a proposal that fundamentally deals with illegal mining?
Not at all. Not at all. My view is that they are just burying their heads like ostriches and not really dealing with the problem. We talk about licensing, we talk about self-discipline, but we know that the first thing we need to do is, as Dr. Chen has rightly said, is to call a state of emergency. The illegal mining is taken down openly. They are not hiding. Why are we not able to deal with it? So we need to call a state of emergency, arrest those who are blatantly breaking the law, deal with choices. I don't think it's a fight in that we are dealing with an existential threat. We are fighting against environmental terrorism, and therefore we need to have a state of emergency. And then we need to repeal LI 2460. It's impossible to continue with a law that allows mining in forest reserves, as has already been said, including globally significant biodiversity areas. We cannot be serious about the people if they allow that law. And I believe that it's a good thing to pause all forms of small-scale mining, whichever name we want to call it, whether community mining or whatever. The Senate has set ban, and that is what a lot of people say. We say pause it, because it cannot continue in its present form. And for us, the main problem is monitoring and enforcement. We are allergic to enforcement. We can't enforce the regulations because the kingpins themselves are involved. I keep on saying that the firefighters are the activists, and therefore we have a challenge. So long as things remain this way, we need to pause community mining until we get our act together.
When you talk about pausing community mining, but the parties are campaigning right now, and they are making commitments. They are promising and giving us a roadmap to how they'll fix many of the challenges of this country. And it's not even an argument that this is the biggest threat we face. It's tragic, is it not, that none of the two main candidates is approaching this as a national crisis?
Because, as I said, they are really not fit to govern. Because who do you want to govern? You want to govern a country that's been poisoned and we're all dying of kidney failure or cancer. If you have the welfare of the Ghanaians at heart, you put their welfare first ahead of both. So I think that the best thing to do is to get anybody who is thinking of political office to sign up to a series of steps that need to be taken. That way, it will not make a difference who you vote for. They are all committed to the state of community. They are all committed to banning or pausing community marketing or small scale money until we get our act together. They are all committed to repealing both LI 2462 and EI 144, which declassifies parts of Achimota Forest. If they're able to do that, it wouldn't matter who comes to power. This is the roadmap that we all need to follow. But I have to say that it's a shame, it's an utter disgrace that when we face such a catastrophe, when our waters have been poisoned, our forest reserves decimated, all some people can think of is both. You just want power for the sake of power, not to do anything positive for the people of Ghana.
And what about the people? Since you talk about the people, what about the people's role in all this too? Because the politicians believe this campaigning, this lack of commitment on the campaign trail to the subject is how we win our votes. And I was asking Dr. Ashigbe earlier about the role, our own role in all this as electorate. How much of a responsibility will you place on the electorate in this period too?
Of course, there's people's power. We vote for the people who we put in office. And again, we can only vote for those who put themselves forward. So we need responsible people to put themselves forward. In the meantime, we have to go for themselves. And let's just do something. There are communities who are doing their best. Look at communities in Zema. Look at communities in Action who are forced community mining because they know that it's another form of Galamsey. They forced it. Recently, they found out that excavators were making their way to Action, which had a pristine Action field. We contacted the Western North Regional Minister to find out what we could do about it. To the best of our knowledge and belief, we did nothing because the excavators got there, managed to destroy parts of the landscape, and police the ones to stay at Tonsu. So you do have community persons who are fighting against this threat. But unfortunately, in their case, it appears that peace is complex. Whereas in Zema, the peace has been fighting against illegal mining. They put up signs that no place for any form of mining in their community, and those who come to mining will be doing so at their own risk. So, of course, such communities, they're not going to vote for anybody who's in favor of community mining because they know that in its present form, all it's doing is causing destruction. They are cocoa farmers. They want to continue cocoa farming. They don't want their farms to be destroyed. And let's be clear that mining has destroyed the livelihood of farmers and of fishermen, apart from poisoning and the rest of the population. So there are people who are fighting, but then they have a challenge. They have a challenge when the illegal miners are armed and the authorities refuse to act because they are involved themselves.
And talking about dealing with this at a community level, Dr. Ashigbe, what I saw in the manifesto that both parties are aligned about is decentralizing the regulation of the sector. The MPP says they want to involve traditional authorities and district assemblies in the licensing process. That's the MPP's position. The NDC says they want to decentralize the regulatory and licensing processing for artisanal miners, all the same thing, really. Is that a solution to the problem?
Well, I think, you see, some of those are solutions to the problem. But see, it's in the wisdom of our old folks. There's this saying that says that to which you don't stand in the anthill trying to pick the ants from you. So you have the situation where currently, as we speak, the district chief executives or the municipal chief executives are the district mining or municipal mining security mining committee chairpersons. And then they are also the district or municipal security committee chairpersons. So it is not as if there's no decentralization there. But these people are not able to deal with the situation. Let me give you a typical example. At Enyinem, the small-scale miners were able to, their task force were able to clear the brim such that the turbidity reduced. They've gone back again, and just behind the police station, that's happening there. So the district police commander, I remember there was a case in Ankobra where in the
but this past weekend, the chief executive of the Minerals Commission was on Newsfile. Actually talked about the illegal mining happening behind the police station.
Exactly.
So he knows about it.
Yes.
And nothing is happening.
So the question you ask is that the DC, who is responsible for that? The police commanders who are in those communities.
Right behind the police station.
The intelligence officers who are there. So this is what they can hear them happening. Why are they not dealing with them? Because the people who are controlling that are the people who have to take the decision. And unfortunately, the regional minister, the Eastern regional minister, also told us that he went into a particular with the task force, and they had to recall back because of the superior weapons that the Galamseyers had. Do you see the threat in there? And how come that the regional minister has currently not said all the DCs that are in that place, I'm asking you to resign, or I'm sacking you off? How come the president himself is allowing all these DCs? So, all of these are nice to have. When you say that, it's just a front, it's just a facade. It would be how that is going to be done and how effective that is going to happen. Because if we still have the structure that we have, where, again, it is the president who, appoints the DCs, and then they have to vote out of that. And that person owes allegiance, to the presidency. Then that is not going to change. So you see, we would have hoped to have seen in all of this that when they say these things, they provide us the house and how that is going to be done. Because, again, community mining is not supposed to have been decentralized.
Yeah.
So again, that's not the solution. You go in there, one of the things that the Ghana Institute of Engineering also mentions as one of the solutions is the thing about ensuring that you do a geological survey of the land so that you know where the gold resources are, so you can limit people into places that they can. But again, if even you did that, how are you going to ensure that that is done? And so that's why if both parties don't deal with the issues, again, Allah said it about the issues about enforcement, there's nothing we're going to achieve. And they will all not do that because all of us are not. Currently, Accra, the sad fact for you, and I'm happy that is happening, is that your Densu is at risk.
Yeah.
There is a particular chief who, told the Galamseyers to leave when they some of the Achim areas. And then they decided that they were not going to go. And he was the one who got, trying to push them out, got their excavators bent. He is currently now being harassed. He is being harassed. And you see, it is things like this, to the extent that the military went into the communities, arrested some of his town folks who went with him to the police station. But the people who were involved in it, when they arrested, immediately they were released. So it is important that we see leadership as fighting for us, for the cause of all of us, and all of us mobilizing. Because again, as I said, there are communities where these things happen. There's a chief who currently also in this community, their water bodies are clean. You go into, there's a water body called Subone. And Subone is in somewhere also in that same area. They don't have a chief, they have a queen mother. Together with her people, they say they're not going to allow illegal mining to happen in that community. And currently their water is clean. You see, and so we need this, very hypocritical attitude of our people who will pretend that they are fighting it and not really fighting it, because the two political parties have Galamsey money going in there.
Yeah, that's another one.
Exactly.
That's another one. I mean, the CDD report that was done on illegal, illicit financial flows into campaign financing clearly showed that illegal miners were sponsoring the parties. And we are in a period where parties need money. There is no doubt that as we speak, both parties are benefiting one way or the other from these people. But the people know that they need that sort of political cover. The way to procure it is to put in money into the campaigns. National security knows about this, but nobody wants to do anything about it.
But you remember that when earlier on the fight, when John Peter Mewu was minister, earlier he released a dossier from the national security that showed, the people who are involved in it. And you see, and again, Evans, it is not rocket science. if you find, like I was talking about some excavators that had moved, that they spoke to the regional minister about that deal, those excavators have VIN numbers.
Yeah.
They are chassis numbers. You can trace who imported them into this country. You can trace who they sold them to and who they rented them out to. So if we really want to deal with them, we'll be able to deal with them. And unfortunately, it costs you about, you know, I hear currently now it's around 8,000 or something without the fuel you'll buy to be able to rent these excavators. You think that the poor people, the 850 people that the Attorney General said they've been arrested, you think these are the people who are renting these up? I would really want to challenge the Attorney General. He should share with us the people who have actually, those 850. Let's find out whether the financiers, those who are actually behind us, those who are buying the gold, the likes of Aisha Wang, we have any of them in there. And you know the sad part? If Chinese people are arrested at this stage, we are told that there are no interpreters when they go to court. Yeah. And so they are allowed to go free. And so the Chief Justice also has a role to play. What is she doing to ensure that these Chinese people, these foreigners who come from other places to come and pollute our water bodies, destroy our forests and all of that, we are dealing with them.
Yeah. And I would like quickly on this subject of decentralizing the solution and getting the chiefs involved. Licensing must happen at the community level. And the assumption there is that the chiefs know their terrain and know the community. And so they can be instrumental in dealing with it when foreigners come and try and take advantage. What do you make of that? Both parties you put in their manifestos.
You see, I don't think that this is the solution to the problem today. I think that we are looking at the wrong way. What we have said is that we do not have a culture of compliance and enforcement. So whether you decentralize it, you don't decentralize it, you come back to the same thing. Who is going to be enforcing? Nobody has said anything about the state of emergency. Nobody has said anything about receiving LIC 460. And what is more important, nobody has said anything about self-content, what is support. Because if we want to run away from the fact that, as has been said, it is the Galamsey who are funding the two main political parties, and that is why there has really been no fight. We've been just facing suddenly. I'm not quite sure that whether we decentralize or not is going to be very helpful to us. So to me, that is a red herring, because we are not really tackling the root of the problem. If we want to stop illegal mining, we can stop it. But the political will, we all know, is just not here. So what I would like to suggest is that there's a cross-party agreement, as I said before, that everybody who is standing would agree to certain points. That is, causing community money, repealing the Traverse LI 242 and EI 144, making sure that protected bonds, what is reported, taken seriously. And those who were mentioned are investigated and prosecuted. And then we have people like Akonta Mani, who were known to have allegedly destroyed parts of the Kano Lilili Forest Reserve. And there has been no accountability. If we are unwilling to address this, whether we decentralize, we don't decentralize, I'm not quite sure it's going to serve any useful purpose.
No, you're absolutely right. And by the way, on Wednesday, there'll be that press conference led by Dr. Ashigbe and co. We'll be there to bring that to you. We'll have another conversation on the back of that and see where this leads us. Uncle, thank you very much. I tend to say Uncle Ken without saying Dr. Ashigbe. Anyway, but yeah, Wednesday, that press conference will happen. We'll see some action. Hopefully, we can get organized labor involved, because they are definitely. And I remember hosting a show here and asking them whether they will be joining the anti-Galamsey war. And they said, why not? I mean, after they won the battle against the sale of the Snake Hotel, I was curious whether they'll be deploying that same power to try and get other social causes, dealt with. And they committed to it. So we'll see whether that happens. Enjoy the rest of your evening.